Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the Mets of New York town.
You are now watching the Amazing Mets Pregame Show with your hosts, Rob and CP.
Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets!
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Amazing Mets Pregame Show right here on the channel. And once again, I am running solo tonight on the pregame show, and you guys know why. Our boy CP is at the game once again in DC, undefeated, and gonna bring that undefeated record to DC once again and see if the Mets can win a series in game 3 of the 4-game set against the Washington Nationals. How is everybody doing tonight? I know you guys are very, very excited. Not only did the Mets come back and win another ball game, but they did it in very similar fashion in game 1. Very similar, right? Seemed like the runs weren't really there. The offense was not really doing that much at all. And then the extra inning came, and they just pounded and pounded and pounded the opponent to submission. And there was no craziness, no stress in the 10th inning after the Mets got the lead. Took 7, got the 5 runs, got 7-2, and it was basically ball game over. And by the way, guys, can we give a shout out to Sean Manaea, who went 7 innings, right? You know, he is basically Sean 5 innings Manaea, and he went 7 innings, knew he had to do it. The bullpen was, listen, even though with Buto being in there, it was still very limited, right? You had Manaea for 7, Buto for 2, and Nunez to close it out in the bottom of the 10th. And Mets win 7-2, getting back to a game over 500. And they got a chance today to win another series, right? Just because we lost the series against the Astros doesn't mean this team isn't red hot. They are hot. They are still on this streak until they possibly go on a losing streak 3 or more games. It's still considered a hot streak. And they're red hot right now. It doesn't matter. Look, we got shut down by the starter yesterday. And the Mets still found a way to win. This is why I'm not concerned. Look, of course we need bullpen help, right? It's not breaking news. Everybody knows it. The team that plays the Mets knows it. The Mets know it. The Mets coaching staff knows it. The medical staff knows it. Everybody knows it. But they find a way to win. And most of the time, and has been the offense. And this is why I'm not so concerned. Because yesterday, the big concern was, why do you have 2 catchers in the lineup, right? JD Martinez was a late scratch, and you had the 2 catchers in it. They didn't want to go another lefty in the lineup. They went with Torrens in there as well. What happened, right? They still got the job done. They found a way to get the offense going at some point in the game, and it got them another victory. I'm not concerned about this team at all, right? Of course, the bullpen is going to be fixed. They're going to do everything they can to fix it, and we're going to be talking about that over the next couple of weeks prior to the deadline. We're going to have a lot of trade deadline shows. We're going to have a lot of live streams when it comes to what will be the Mets be looking at. Will they be trying to go for starting pitching? Will they trade some starting pitching to get some bullpen help? It's a lot of moving parts. We're going to talk about that a lot going forward. But right now, if you're a Mets fan right now, you are on cloud nine because a couple of weeks ago, we thought we were going to have a dead season. We thought we were going to sell everybody and their mother to every other team, and we would just have a bad summer, and we would just have to play out the string. And the team fought back. The team showed some fight, and this team is on another level. And we talked about this so many times, especially prior to the season. We talked about the lineup is good enough. It's not great. Look, they're not as hot as they are right now, but they're just under that. Like, obviously, some of these guys are playing out of their minds. Excuse me, but even if they fall back to the back of their baseball cards offensively, it's still a very good offense. Do I think they're going to score 7 runs per ball game as they are right now during this stretch? No. But if they keep it over 5 games or more, or 5 runs or more, excuse me, they're going to be perfectly fine. Because as much as we want to bitch and moan about the start and pitch and not going deep, nobody goes deep in games. No team, no pitcher, not a lot of pitchers in any team you could pick go a lot of innings anymore. So as much as we bitch and moan about them not going deeper in the games, they're still giving you quality innings. The starter's job on the majority of nights, probably all of them, is to leave with your team in the lead. If you do that, that's a successful start. I don't care. Like everybody bitched and moaned about Tyler McGill. Look, I didn't want McGill in the rotation anyway, but to say that his last start was not good is silly because he left with a lead. Your job as a starter is to keep a lead, hold on to a lead once you're out of the ballgame. McGill did that, right? If the Mets would have lost yesterday, would anybody would have been talking about how good Mania pitched? Or would they say, oh, well, he gave up the 2 runs, even though both balls should have been the run shouldn't have scored. I mean, he barely got the ball out of the outfield, these hitters for the one Nationals, because Sean Manaea was pitching his ass off. But if we would have lost yesterday, it wouldn't have been about how good Sean Manaea pitched. It would have been like, well, he gave up the 2 runs. He could have pitched better. I mean, that was probably one of his best starts of his Mets career of the season. So we look at it. We look at it in a lot of different ways, right? I like starters coming out of ball games. If they have the lead and they held on to the lead coming out of the ball game, they did their job, regardless of what you think of that pitcher. If you think the pitcher, like, I don't know, pick a pitcher you don't really like, right? And you say, oh, well, he didn't do a good job. You're going into the game expecting him not to do well, and then when he does better than expected but not great, you still complain. So it's important to understand why the Mets are where they are. Number one, the starting pitching and the bullpen saved their asses the early part of the year, probably for the first month and a half, where they were basically straggling for dear life when the offense was nowhere to be found, when they were scoring 3 runs per ball game for the first month of the season, month and a half of the season. And then when the starting kind of hit a little bit of a wall, may happen because the offense couldn't pick up the pitching. Now, right now, for the whole month of June, and now the first couple of days in July, the offense has picked up the pitching. Even when the pitching is good, the offense still clicks. When the pitching is not so good, the offense finds a ways to do it. It's about time, right? Right? This is the offense that we were expecting. Not the 7 runs per ball game, but a lot of the same guys that are supposed to be doing the jobs are doing the jobs. And it's not that complicated. It's very simple. If you do the job that you're supposed to do, if your main guys do their job, they don't have to be great. They just got to do their jobs. It's a lot easier to win ball games than trying to struggle for runs and praying that your pitching holds up in a low-scoring ball game. Because that was the problem in May, right? If it wasn't low-scoring games that we were losing, 1-run games that we were losing, we were blowing it late in the ball game. But look at the games that we lost. right? It was low-scoring games. It was games where the offense didn't come through when they had opportunities. And then the pitching had to be perfect. I'm sorry. You can't be perfect. And what I love about this team right now is that they're still finding ways to win regardless of the flaws that they might have. And mostly it's the bullpen. But it's amazing when you add another pitcher that you can actually trust. Like Budo seems like he'll be perfectly fine in the bullpen. It looks a lot better. And I do like the fact that you got Hauser, Buto, and Nunez who can go Nunez that go multiple innings. So it's possible to not pitch all of your bullpen arms for 1 inning apiece, and then I hurt your bullpen for the next day. You know, a guy like Adrian Hauser with Christian Scott, right? I don't know how deep Christian Scott could go. Is it the 100 pitch mark? I know he did that his last start in AAA, but who knows, right? They look at the stress level, you know, how hard did he work during the innings and stuff like that. So we'll see. So I like the fact that Christian Scott is here. He needs to be here, right? We even got Jose Buto on this team. He is more important in the bullpen right now than in the rotation. The rotation is fine. The rotation is not bad. The rotation has been probably above average just because we're so used to we don't like the fact that they only go 5 innings. We get so angry and think it's the worst thing in the world, but we don't watch enough baseball around the league to realize the Mets are doing something that a lot of teams do. So it's not a problem for the Mets. It's a problem for the league and how they look at starting pitching and how they try to overprotect these starting pitchers, and it overloads their bullpen and it stresses their bullpen. And that's all the teams. Like it's amazing how sad it is because it should be different. It should be, but it's not. So you just have to deal with it. And that's why they carry a ton of arms in the bullpen, and especially where they rely so heavily on the bullpen in Major League Baseball nowadays because they devalue the starting pitcher. Yet, when they need the guy to go deep into a ball game, you see question marks popping out of their head like, what? What do you mean? I never done this. And then we wonder why it doesn't happen. So I'm just looking at the comments, guys. I do apologize for that. Who's playing in center field? I don't know because I didn't put it. It's Tyron Taylor. I apologize for that. I know I wrote. See, I did a typo, and I don't do it on purpose, but it's working. It's working, guys. I've made so many typos over the last month, and the Mets are on a hot streak. So I'm going to do it even when I don't do it on purpose. That's what I love. So you got 2 right fielders because this is softball. We're doing the shift. That's what I'm talking about. So the Mets need a setup, man. Let's trade for Carlos Estevez and Aroldis Chapman. Please don't give me Aroldis Chapman. I do not want to see that guy in a Mets uniform. I'm sorry. I don't care how well he's pitched in Pittsburgh, right? Last time I checked, he's pitching in Pittsburgh. Let's calm down there. Sorry. I just can't see. I've seen too many horrible moments with Chapman on the mound with the Yankees. I don't want him to be here at all. Now, Carlos Estevez is an interesting name. I'm going to be doing either a video or a live stream about possible Mets targets for the bullpen that might be available come the trade deadline or leading up towards the trade deadline. So make sure you tune in for that. Maybe I'll get Chris involved with the video so we can really, go back and forth on it because, videos are cool solo, but when you get back and forth, you can see where we might be on the same page or we might have different opinions on who the Mets should get. But honestly, there's a decent amount of bullpen arms in the 4 teams that are most likely are going to be sellers guarantee that are already out of it in the American League and the National League. So that's the teams you got to look for. There's probably like 4, maybe 5. And, I'm going to look at the list of relievers that could be available. And then we'll see, right? What is the best option, but what is obtainable, right? Because we can always talk about the options that are available, but what are the Mets willing to give up? And that's going to be a talking point probably on many of the Mets shows from content creators all across YouTube that are going to be talking about, right? Yeah, of course you want the best arms available, but what are you willing to give up? Because I think that's going to be more important and more of the glaring talking point on channels all across Mets universe. Because I think the Mets could get anybody they want, but who will they give up? That's the problem. Because if a team overpays and you lose out on another arm, and it happens to be a team that might be fighting for a playoff spot with you, well, you kind of hurt yourself in that spot, right? So what are the Mets going to do? That's going to be the important thing. Now, there's been a lot of talk about the Mets starting pitching, where they might trade a starter to get a reliever because they got an excess of that. I'm always a little weary about that because you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen with pitching. You never have enough depth. And if you don't have enough depth in your rotation and guys in the minors, just in case of an injury, you don't want to, shorten that depth just to bring in a bullpen piece because you need it. And if, God forbid, somebody gets hurt, or if they're expecting Kodai Senga to come back and he doesn't, well, who's replacing him if you already traded that guy? That's why, you could still have Christian Scott and Jose Buto up here and still have your guys like Quintana and Minaya and Severino still a part of this rotation. And Peterson. Like, it's not a bad rotation. It's really not. I'm not going to call it, solid, but it's probably above average. And why is that not good enough? Why is that not good of it? I think it is. I think it's okay. Like, would I want upgrades? But I don't want my team going after starting pitching because I don't think it makes sense. Right? We all know about that Chicago White Sox pitcher, right? Crochet. To everybody wants him, but he has years left of control. It's going to cost a lot. Are you going to overpay for a starting pitcher that you probably don't need? I don't see that makes more sense. I'd rather overpay for bullpen arms, which is going to be annoying, but are they really trying to win? Are they going for it? Because it's going to be a huge conversation from Met fans alike. That what do you do if the Mets are 2 games, 3 games over 500, right in the wild card mix? Maybe they're in a wild card spot. I'm not saying to sell. And maybe they don't get the best arms available for bullpens, but they get, quality arms to help this bullpen. Like, I'm a little confused because I'm not sure if David Stearns is going to do what he needs to do to put this team in a better spot with adding additional players. And the reason why I say that, because I don't know what he thinks of certain prospects, right? He might already have a list of prospects he's willing to trade, but for what players? So I think it's hard to really figure out what's going to happen. I mean, we're still, a month out, almost a little under 4 weeks until the trade deadline on the 31st of this month. So a lot can happen in 3 weeks, right? The Mets can go on a terrible losing streak and we're talking about selling again. Or they can continue to play well and we're talking about buying. But all we've heard was that the Mets are going to do a hybrid type of trade deadline where they're going to sell some assets. They're going to use those assets that they have to trade for other necessities, like trade a starter for a bullpen piece or two. Like, they could do that. So it's tough. It really is. It sucks because I'd rather them just be buyers instead of playing that half in, half out mentality, because I feel like it's like that. If you're doing a hybrid trade deadline, you're not all in. And I think it's a stupid way to manage a ball club. I think you got to be in or out. Don't do both, because I feel like it's not going to be in the best interest for the Mets to do both. We'll get into that later, and I see Chris in the chat right now. Grimace and Mr. Meadow here at the pregame. Let's take a series. We in the building. That's right. CP's undefeated, so you know what that means. He's chugging. He's chugging right now, just like Grimace did at Citi Field. So, Chris, enjoy yourself, buddy. You're probably inside City Field, but you're probably at the bullpen as well. The bullpen is an outside bar in DC, right, not too a block away from Nationals Park. All right, guys. So let's look at the lineup. Yes, there is 2 right fielders. No, that's not true. I just typoed because why not, right? That's what I do. And the Mets have been successful while I'm doing it, and I haven't done it on purpose. Just how the cookie crumbles. All right, so we got Lindor, Nimmo, Martinez, Alonso, Vientos, Torrens, Taylor, Iglesias, and Gamel, who is playing right field, with Taylor playing center field and Nimmo playing left field. So, bullpen first always. 100% agree. So, I'm trying to check the comments. Give me 1 second, guys. I know a lot of them went past. Mike said I'm DFA'd. I'm always DFA'd. Don't worry. You want, Tanner Scott. Yeah, and he's another one. Again, we want a lot of guys, but that does not mean that we can get them. Yes, sir. CP, always. All the love, buddy. All the love. Yeah, Parker's been good again, but again, it hasn't mattered with the Mets. It doesn't matter. Like, we've been facing pitchers that have been having good seasons, good ERAs, great ERAs, and the Mets have done business and got them out of ball games and put some runs up on the board against that really good pitching. So I'm not really concerned who's pitching, right? The Mets are hitting right now, and that's all I care about. And even if the Mets don't hit Parker, they showed you yesterday when they couldn't hit the starter yesterday. What did they do? They waited until the bullpen came in, and they took advantage of the bullpen. And they definitely took advantage of it in the extra innings. So I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it at all. I like this team. This team is red hot right now. The Met fans are in full force in DC. The main guy, CP, out there. So, it's really important to realize that this Mets team is winning despite their flaws. And regardless of who's pitching, like a guy like Mitchell Parker today, who's been pretty damn good, it doesn't matter. Because why do I have any lack of confidence in this team when I can assure you, after the Astros series, people were ready for, Judgment Day, ready for this team to fall apart. And they proved once again by winning the next 2 and cutting the losing streak to 2, right? Now they have an opportunity over the next 2 days to take a series. Now, we all want the sweep, right? We win the first 2. You're getting a little greedy. But going into the series, we talked about taking 3 out of 4. 3 out of 4 was what I wanted. A split is disappointing. A series loss is terrible, right? They can't have a series loss now. Can they still split? Absolutely. But they got a golden opportunity with Christian Scott on the mound today to take a series. And then tomorrow's game at 11 o'clock on the 4th of July, you can sweep a series. And you're playing with house money because of the fact that regardless of what is the outcome tomorrow, if you win today, you're guaranteed going to playing Pittsburgh a game over 500. And right now, we're a game out of a wildcard spot behind San Diego. So we win today, San Diego loses. Guess who's in a wildcard spot? And guess who's 2 games over 500? Our New York Mets. So that's something to be excited about. And I talked about this a month ago when the Mets were kind of like 5.5 games out of a wildcard spot, had to jump over like 6 teams, which they did in very quick fashion, by the way. I said this, right? It doesn't matter what happens on August 1st. That game is irrelevant until it's not. What do I mean by that? Our season, the New York Mets season, ends on July 31st. That is the last game of the season, in my opinion, because there is no reason why we worry about games in August when the deadline is going to determine how much we care and how relevant those games are in August, September, and the first week in October. So like 20, I would say about like 20-something games until the trade deadline. Those 20-plus games, I think it's like 23, 24, is going to determine the relevancy of games in August, September, and that first week in October. And I said that from the beginning of the season. I was like a broken record. I said, don't worry about game 110, 115. It doesn't matter. Worry about every game from opening day until the deadline, because that's what, even a few games before the deadline. Because if the Mets are right where they are right now, a game out of a wild card or possibly in a wild card, you bet your bottom dollar that I'm going to be caring about August games. But I don't care right now. I don't care about August games. I care about July 3rd game because it's today. And I care about the games going forward, right? I know everybody saw this on Twitter or X, whatever the hell you want to call it. The Mets have the easiest schedule of the second half. From this point on, they have the easiest schedule, right? I've heard that story before. I don't care. Doesn't matter. Just beat the teams. It doesn't matter because easiest schedules don't mean nothing. This is baseball. Anybody can beat anybody on any given day, right? This isn't the NBA where one of the better teams never loses to a bad team. It doesn't happen. Baseball, anybody can win on any given day. If you're got a couple of guys that don't have good games and you have one pitcher that shuts you down, you lose a ball game, regardless of the team's record. You know, we get so crazy that, oh my God, we lost the game to the Marlins. Oh no, we lost the game to whatever bad team we might play over the next month. Doesn't matter. It's baseball. You're gonna lose and you're gonna win until you get the 60 wins and 60 losses, because the majority of teams get 60 wins and 60 losses, right? If you do the math, the other 42 games is what matters. So that was always the conversation, right? You win 60, you lose 60. The other 42 is where you make or break your season, right? But the 162 game season shouldn't be on the minds of the Mets. It should be the first 198, 99 games, which is the games you play before the deadline. That's what matters. And with the Mets playing extremely well right now, and you do got a Nationals team that the Mets are clearly better than. You got a Pirates team that the Mets are clearly better than. You got a Rockies team that the Mets are clearly better than. And you play the Nationals again after Pittsburgh. So you're playing teams over the next 2 weeks before the All-Star break that you're better than. Take advantage of it. And that's it. You'll be right in prime position coming out of the All-Star break to get closer and closer to the deadline and being where you need to be. So David Stearns doesn't have two envelopes that has plan A to sell, plan B to buy. You want him to throw that plan A sell in the garbage. Don't give him an option. Don't give him a chance to think about it. Make him buy at the deadline, right? We can all talk about buying now, but that plan to sell is still on the table. And Met fans better realize that. And I know the players know about that. Because if they don't play well over these next 20 odd-on games prior to the deadline, there will be all your young prospects that everybody wants to see up here. They will be playing. You know why? Because they're playing out the string, and you're going to see these young kids, and you're not going to have a season or games you really care about. So what the Mets got to continue to do up until the trade deadline is make Stearns have no choice but to buy. That's the goal. And how do you do that? You remain where the Mets are right now. If you're a game out of a wild card, or you're in a wild card spot, or you're just right in that mix where they feel like it's 3 games away, 2 games away, you have a couple of games winning streak in a row, you're right back in the mix, or you're in the wild card. That's what they have to do. And that's the only way to prevent any type of sell job. And I will not be mad if the Mets don't play well. I'm not going to be on this channel. I'm not going to be on anybody's show or talking about any show about being mad at David Stearns for selling. Because Most of you Met fans, all I heard was this was a transition year. Me and Chris got laughed at for having our win totals above 81. So if you all believed it was a transition year and it wasn't to be a team that makes the playoffs, then why would so many people be mad? You know why? Because you give a shit. You care. It matters, especially when they were playing so well. They made you believe again, and in typical Mets fashion, they break your heart. Let's hope that does not happen. Give me a second half. That's what I want. Because last year sucked. Me, Chris, with the round table, all we did on the round table constantly was just talk about everything else, the offseason. What are we going to do? Free agency. And this was after the deadline in August and September. Because we never talked about the games. No, it didn't matter. I don't want another season like that. I don't. Because I'd be really pissed off. You would see, I'm usually angry, but you would see me very disappointed and angry in the majority of the live streams because I don't want to talk about the offseason. I don't want to talk about trades in the offseason or free agency or Juan Soto. I don't care about that. I care about enjoying my summer into fall, talking about Mets baseball. That matters. I want games in September that fucking matter. It's just that simple. I think I had 87 wins, and I think Chris, if he's still watching, I think he had 84. I know I had 87. I know I got destroyed for that, which was funny. But I felt confident enough if people did their jobs that there should be no reason why they can't be 6 games over 500 or something like that. And I think Chris, it was 83, 84. I know it was right around there. But he had him a couple of games over 500. And we both got killed for it. Because all we heard was it's transition year. 2025 is the year. You know what year I also heard that? 2015 was supposed to be the transition year, and 2016 was supposed to be the Mets year. How did both of those years turn out? 2015 was a great year. 2016 was a subpar year. Pete's not getting traded. If the Mets are within striking distance or in a wild card spot, Pete's not going anywhere. I don't think Pete's going anywhere. Anyway, to be honest with you, McNeil is going to be an interesting option, Justice, 100%. Right? I think the one guy you can see getting traded is Jeff McNeil for maybe a bullpen piece. And I don't even think it matters if he's hitting well or not. I think they're going to try to swap him for a bullpen piece. And I'm not talking about a top-line bullpen guy, but it might be a guy that might need to change his scenery, who might be on a bad team, where you slot him into a different position that he currently was in his former team, and maybe you catch lightning in a bottle, right? That's an addition by subtraction, right? You can replace McNeil. You can do it with Iglesias. You can do it with Luisano Acuna if you wanted to. I don't like trading away starting pitching to add to a necessity because I don't like messing with starting pitching depth because you're one injury away from having bullpen games because you don't have enough starters. Dangerous game to play. Sanders, you know what's funny? But see, here's the problem though, Sanders, right? Why would the Mets trade if the Mets are playing well? Why would you trade Alonso, losing that power in your lineup, for Cody Bellinger, who's having a good season, but nowhere near the power that Pete Alonso provides, and 2 prospects? Okay, great, you get assets, but that doesn't help the team now. Now, if you're in sell mode, maybe I can have a conversation about that because you do have Cody Bellinger for a couple more years, who's still young, right? If you continue it to get the transition year, and you get the 2 prospects to add to your farm, yeah, that's a pretty decent idea. But we're not there yet, right? And that's the thing, right? People are talking about, like, I hear people talking about, trading off or selling still at this point, where I don't think people still believe, which I understand you guys don't have to believe. You don't have to, right? you still are pessimistic, right? You still just waiting for that other shoe to drop. And a lot of people believed when all the injuries happened in the bullpen and Diaz got suspended that was going to be the demise of their hot streak and they were going to fall apart. And they still haven't. And everybody thought after the Astros series loss, it was going to be a problem. We were going to go downhill, and they still haven't. Can they still? Absolutely. But the Mets are better than these teams they're facing over the next 2 weeks before the All-Star break. Not saying that they're going to, win all these series because they're better than the team. Like I said, it's baseball. Anything can happen. But I feel confident that the Mets are going to win this series against the Nationals because they only need one more win out of the next two to win the 3 out of 4. And then they play Pittsburgh or go to Pittsburgh. So you play Pittsburgh for 4, I believe it's 4, and you win that series, right? At minimum, you split, right? 4-game series is not easy to win. Like I was looking at the percentage the other day because I know the Mets had a couple of 4-game series in a row, and 76% of the time, teams split a 4-game series. So the Mets winning 4-game series they're in the minority. And that's a great sign if they keep on doing that. But a lot of the time, it's not going to happen because the percentage it's hard to win a series in a 4-game set. But the Mets have a chance to do it in this series, and they got Christian Scott on the mound for it against Mitchell Parker, who's been damn good for the Nationals. But the Mets offense has shown you that they can hit good pitching, especially when they're red hot. You got JD Martinez back in the lineup, and his ankle was because of cleats that he weren't able to get. And Adidas shipped those bad boys quick, so he's got his cleats now. You got Vientos sitting there behind Alonso. You got Iglesias back in on second base, batting 8. You got Tyron Taylor, who's basically took over. He's playing center field, but he's basically took that starting job after Marte got hurt and says, DJ Stewart, sit on the bench and hold my glove or hold my bat. Because look at this lineup. Lindor, it seemed like every leadoff at bat he gets a base hit. Nimmo coming in for Bader yesterday got 2 huge hits coming in for Bader. He's starting today. Obviously, like I said, Martinez back in the lineup. Pete Alonso hit a 2-run bomb yesterday to really put it out of reach in extra innings. Vientos looking like he's still on top of everything when he's out at the plate. Torrens is just a backup catcher that you dream of. He's been damn good. He's catching, giving Alvarez a break, who Alvarez will probably be in the game tomorrow in the 11 o'clock 4th of July game, right? Iglesias has been a godsend for this team. You can say that if the Mets go on a run and they make a playoff run and God forbid I say they do something insane in the playoffs, you're going to have a 5 days in Flushing based on Jose Iglesias like they did for 5 days in Flushing. It was based around Wilmer Flores. Like, that's the impact a journeyman player in Jose Iglesias had on this team. Because once he came up, everything's changed. He changed the whole dynamic of the not even the lineup because he didn't start, but the whole dynamic of the clubhouse, the chemistry. I mean, they're freaking out on fireworks on at Citi Field. Jose Iglesias is having a concert and the team's out having a good time. Like, it's the weirdest thing. In May, we were talking about this team having no chemistry at all, who don't like each other, who accordingly need to break up. It's amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. So, guys, we got about 15 minutes until, 15 minutes, about 20 minutes until game time. We're going to wrap it up by saying, oh my God, the Mets found a way to pull out 2 games with offensive blast in extra innings to take the first 2 games of the series and have a great chance of winning the series against the Nationals. The good news is we get to see Christian Scott on the bump again, and he's not going anywhere. Let's hope that he pitches well. The Mets offense continues to beat up every pitcher, regardless if they're good or bad. And we're talking about another win tomorrow on the 4th of July, going for a sweep. Tomorrow is going to be a ton of shows. We're going to have a pregame. We're going to have a postgame. And everybody's favorite roundtable will probably be around midday, not midday, I'm sorry, excuse me, like mid-afternoon, like around 4 or 5 o'clock, maybe 6, because, it's the 4th of July. Everybody's probably out and about, and we don't want to keep people around out, us bothering you guys. But the roundtable, we were going to try to do it on the weekend, but because of scheduling and a lot of people weren't around and all that craziness and the way the Mets game ended up being with times and stuff like that, it didn't work out. We wanted to do it, but we couldn't. So after the Nats, or right after the Nats series tomorrow, we will definitely have the roundtable. Time to be determined, but we got a ton of shows tomorrow. Daniel says, Chat, you think Nimmo goes for a steal or no because of his head? No, Nimmo's not a base stealer. Nimmo's afraid to steal. Look, that's why he's not a leadoff hitter anymore. I'm sorry. Like, that's why he's a better number 2 hitter, because he's a guy that takes pitches. Lindor can steal bases. That's why Lindor made more sense in a leadoff spot than Nimmo, who should be batting second. This 1 through 4 is what I pictured in my mind. And I like that. Ryan got the parlay of the Mets tonight. We love it. We love it. Yes, Val says it's going. It's gone. Oh, my God. That's right. I'm changing my name to Oscar Michael Goodwin. You guys are great, I tell you. All right, guys. Yeah, Justice, I agree. We should have swept the Astros. We had opportunities in those ball games to either go ahead or win, right? The game 3 of the last game of the series against the Astros, all we needed was a hit. We had a guy on second with 1 out. We didn't, and that was the game-winning run. We would have took 2 out of 3 against the Astros. I mean, we're talking about a team a couple of games over 500 here and rolling. So, listen, guys, it's all about today. It's all about 6:45. Christian Scott on the mound. Mets are red hot. Lineup's looking good. The Mets yesterday won 7-2 in dramatic fashion late in the ball game in extra innings. The Mets are 42-41. One day before the 4th of July, they got an opportunity tonight to win another series. They lost 1 series in the last month and like 5 days. They haven't lost since the 1st of June against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Let's keep it rolling. Let's keep the good vibes going. And as Chris, my boy, always says, just win, baby. And that's what the Mets are going to do tonight. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, the Amazing Mets pregame show, another one in the book. Game 84 of the season for our New York Mets. Tomorrow, we got a jam-packed day of shows, pre, post, and Mets Roundtable. Mets Roundtable will be TBD. Obviously, the game is 11 o'clock in the morning, so there'll probably be a 10 o'clock pregame, and postgame is whenever the game is over. We'll be on the channel as well. Roundtable, I'm assuming it's going to be around 4 or 5 o'clock, give or take, maybe 6. I'll talk to the crew and see what works best, but look out for the roundtable stream to pop up, and make sure you hit on that like button early on the stream so we can get more people to join the roundtable, and we could talk about our Mets sweeping the Nationals. How would that sound? That roundtable will be bouncing, and we will definitely have some of this on the roundtable. That's what I'm talking about, guys. That's the party I want on the roundtable tomorrow afternoon. A sweep of the Nationals. That's what I want. But it starts tonight with Christian Scott. Let's see if the Mets can continue beating up on good pitching. With that said, guys, I will see you tomorrow, pre, post, and roundtable on the channel, on X, everywhere you can find the stream. Tune in. Have a great day. Enjoy the Mets game. And if you're not available tomorrow, have a great 4th of July and a safe 4th of July. With that said, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Let's go Mets. Have a great night, guys. Enjoy.